All right, let's talk precious metals. First of all, the economy's crazy. God knows what's going to happen. Joining us now, he's a precious metals expert for Birch Gold. Our buddy Phillip Patrick joins the show. All right, my man. I don't even know. I don't know where the dollar's going. I know what happened with BRICS. I don't. I mean, the Fed's doing whatever it is. It's chaos, man.
It is absolutely chaos, and it's not calming down anytime soon. Job numbers got revised down, so what looked like an economy improving now looking a little bit shaky. But yeah, it's crazy. There's no question about it.
The jobs thing, because I always tell everybody stuff like that. That's meant for the market. It's not meant for the average. Nobody's sitting at home going, "Oh man, I had 112,000 non-farm payroll jobs, but it came in at 73. I'm way off." No, that's not for us, but it has an effect on us in the market and elsewhere. And that's why I tell everybody, pay attention to some of this stuff, the reaction more than what the numbers are.
It's absolutely correct. And you're right? Non-farm payrolls doesn't affect our daily lives directly, but it does affect policy, and policy does affect our lives. The other issue with it is it's very difficult for the Fed or for the administration to be able to plan, because you'll plan based on the numbers in front of you. When those numbers change on a dime, it's an issue. For example, the Federal Reserve have been saying, look, we need to hold rates higher. Unemployment's looking really good and inflation's rising a little bit. Turns out unemployment wasn't looking good. Maybe that would have been the catalyst to lower rates earlier. So it's important, but I agree, it doesn't resonate day to day.
Talking to Phillip Patrick, Birch Gold, precious metals expert, our buddies over at Birch Gold. Let's talk about the rates. What does that do? Because I think a lot of people try to figure out, how does everything correlate? How does the dollar correlate with gold and precious metals? How does the rates and unemployment, all correlate with what happens in the gold market?
Look, a lot of it drives in. We're sort of backed into a corner where almost anything the Federal Reserve do sort of bodes well for gold. So basically, when they lower rates, the concern is it leads to inflation, right? Because when rates are lower, people can borrow money, go out and spend. Spending ultimately is inflationary. So, they want to keep rates higher to combat inflation. That's kind of the idea. But like I say, no matter which way they turn, I think it's good for gold. Right? Lowering rates devalues the dollar, higher rates strengthen the dollar. When you devalue the dollar, it drives the price of gold up. The flip side is if they keep rates high, they stifle economic growth. That could lead to a recession, and ultimately it bodes well. Like I say, we're backed into a corner right now where almost whichever way things turn, there's an argument for precious metals in front of us.
You talk about the dollar. I saw, Trump was it 2 weeks ago. He's like, I'll never let the dollar ever go down. It's got to be strong. And then the week later, when he realizes people buy stuff when the dollar's cheap, so maybe I'll just let it be. There's a correlation with a weaker dollar where people are going to buy more, but at the same time, that's a good thing for gold.
It's exactly right. Look, countries like China, but by the way, that was a very good President Trump impression.
Thank you very much.
It was really good. Countries like China, they're huge exporters, right? So they want a weak currency, which makes their exports more attractive. And that was sort of what Trump mentioned. He said, look, if we want to be the world's largest exporters again, maybe a weak currency suits us. The problem is we're also global reserve currencies. We've got $37 trillion of debt, and a strong currency has cemented our position as global reserve. So like I say, it's a really tough position that President Trump's in. He wants to achieve certain things, but they have second and third order effect. It's a real mess, the state of the economy. When you really delve in, it's a disaster. And that's why I say almost whatever decisions are being made, it's strengthening the case for gold. It's crazy.
Talking to Phillip Patrick, he is a precious metals expert over at Birch Gold, our pals over there. On top of all of that, you've got what's happening in Israel, because we can't, gold's one of those things where it's not just about the numbers and this, that, and the other. There's also stability. And we don't have stability. You've got Trump moving subs. Now you've got what's obviously happening in Gaza. And I've been pretty outspoken on my show that I think what's happening there is a tragedy. I think we've got to start rethinking some of these things. But when there's unease, and we know the markets, financial and everything, they like stability. There's not that stability here.
That's it. That's exactly it. Listen, gold is an inflation hedge. It's a currency hedge. It's a hedge against recession. So short-term problems that we have, gold's really good. But like you said, it's also a hedge on geopolitical instability, right? It always has been, as bad as this is to say, wars, things like that. Historically, gold's always done well in that climate. I bring it back to where we are today. This is an era of instability, and it's not just a US issue. This is happening across the globe. If this was domestic, we'd have options. Europe's in trouble. Asia's in trouble. This is a global problem. And like I said, these sorts of climates, gold does very well. It's up 40% in 12 months, 25% almost, 25% this year alone. Historically, gold hasn't grown as aggressively as that. The reason it is the things we're discussing now.
Yeah, well, instability does it. And you've got instability in the marketplace, you have instability with the currency, you have instability in the global world and in the political world too. That plays a huge role. I mean, the battle between the Fed and Trump. I mean, I'm just take away should he or should it's a battle, man, between a dude and a dude.
It is, and it's crazy to see watching them in the two hard hats sitting there. Just it's crazy. The Fed thing's interesting. Listen, the markets want an independent Fed, right? They want it. The second the executive controls the purse strings, it's a disaster. So that's where you see the messaging from the administration. Oh, we're thinking about firing Trump, firing Powell,
Wow.
but then they back off, right? And I think Besson's in there saying, look, we can't fire the Fed chair. So they're trying to force him out. I don't think it's going to work. They'll definitely replace him early next year. But this sort of stuff, the markets do not like, right? And I understand Trump's frustration. There's a political angle here. Powell lowered rates prior to the election when inflation was higher under Biden. He's refusing to do it today. So I see where Trump's frustration is coming from, but we need an independent Fed. Otherwise, the markets will freak.
If he was to, because, I mean, Trump is Trump. I mean, just when you think he's not going to do something, it's exactly when he comes out and goes and fires the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He killed the messenger. He shot the messenger. The messenger doesn't put that together. There's 2,000 people to work there. If he was to blow Powell out, and like you said, I think Besson is the one that comes and goes, no, can't do this. He's the one that talks a lot about, especially when it comes to bonds and certain things, he's looking. If he was to do it, what would that do to the market? What would it do to precious metals?
It would drive precious metals up. First thing it would do would lead to massive instability in the market. It would lead to a drop in the value of the US dollar, and ultimately gold and the dollar run inverse. When the dollar goes down, gold goes up. That's largely why gold is doing what it's doing this year. The dollar's had its worst start to the year since the 1970s. So it wouldn't be good for financial markets. Even talk of it leads to downside in the markets until they realize we're not going to do this one. So it wouldn't be good. It would be great for gold. Like I say, every cloud for me has a silver lining, but it wouldn't be good for the markets or for the economy. And they know that. It's not going to happen.
Talking to Phillip Patrick, precious metals expert for Birch Gold, our pals over there. Where do you see? I think we're going to get a rate cut. I think by the end of the year, I think we'll get a half a point, maybe 3/4. I don't think we're going to get, Trump's like, drop it by 5 points, give away the money, give everybody a house. It'll be great. It'll be, but where do you realistically think it's going to go? And then what's that going to do for gold?
I think a half point, honestly. Let's see what happens with inflation. If it starts to spike up again on the next report, we'll see. I think a half point by the end of this year. Trump wants 300 basis points, which would be, that sort of cut is 9/11, great financial crisis territory. I don't see the argument for that today. 100 basis points, maybe though. The Taylor rule says rate should be between about 3.2 and I think 4.1 today. So we should see a lowering half a point by end of this year if I had to do a forward prediction.
Right on, my man. Tell everybody what they can do when they want to get info and go to, text Benson to 989898 today for Birch. And you guys are going to send them out just an info kit.
It's free information. Look, for us, information is so important. All of our information is free. A lot of stuff on the dollar. We've got a series of reports on the dollar itself. We've got a free report on how and why to buy gold under a Trump administration. It is all free. As you say, text Benson to 989898. get access to the information. What they want to do with it from there, rather, is all on them. But get the information. There's some really good stuff in there. We've worked hard on it, and I think it'll be a benefit to anyone who reads it.
Rock and roll, brother. Appreciate you taking time with us today. We'll do it again.
Thank you. Look forward to it.